going on, guys? It's Evan here from Evan Sports Corner, and I'm back with another video here on the channel. Today, we got another Madden 23 2050 career sim, and we're starting off with a pretty solid free agency class here in the 2044 offseason. The best tight end in the league, Brendan Hodge, ended up switching teams to the Cardinals. A couple other decent offensive linemen like JT Pickard and Miguel Fernandez, a couple of decent players, and then former MVP Calvin McClendon heads to the New York Jets, and a young superstar quarterback Miles Collins heads to the Bengals. Pretty solid free agency class, actually. And now we'll head to the draft, and the main story of this draft is the Arizona Cardinals getting their franchise quarterback, Glenn Bonner, 80 overall, 93 throw power with 79 speed, so a pretty mobile quarterback with a big arm, and this is the guy who needs to bring the Cardinals back to relevance. They have not been good at all in this franchise and the sim. Emmitt Smith, not the running back, the edge rusher is the new guy for the Buccaneers. Dalton Shepard, really solid defensive tackle. Not a crazy draft, but a potential great quarterback in Bonner who can lead the Cardinals back. Now we're in the 2044 playoffs, and as you can see, the Miami Dolphins are back in the playoffs. However, they are looking to avenge their Super Bowl loss to the Vikings, who are back in the playoffs as well. Tough Super Bowl loss from the Dolphins. And the Vikings looking to three-peat here in this franchise, in the sim. They've done a great job in the 2040s. The MVP is won by Ravens star quarterback John Sullivan. Finally, someone able to take the award away from Theo Irwin. Brent Shepard coming in second for the Cowboys, as John Sullivan also wins Offensive Player of the Year, and Bigsby wins Defensive Player of the Year for the Steelers. No surprises. Austin Henley, the former MVP, winning Offensive Player of the Year for the Falcons, and Quinn Pugh getting Defensive Player of the Year. Not too surprising. Now we're going to the Super Bowl, and it is the Dallas Cowboys and the Miami Dolphins, two of the league's top three quarterbacks, Brent Shepard for Dallas and the five-time MVP Theo Irwin for Miami. The Cowboys won a Super Bowl many years ago in this sim. The Dolphins have not won yet. Here's Brent Shepard taking off, and he's going to juke and get the first down. The Dolphins lost last year's Super Bowl in heartbreaking fashion to the Minnesota Vikings, as Shepard looking to give them another heartbreaking loss. He throws a dime. Second down and 10. Brent Shepard throwing over the middle. That's picked off. That's picked off by the Dolphins. And this is going to go all the way for a pick six. The Miami Dolphins have completely swung the momentum of this game. It looked like the Cowboys and Shepard were about to take the lead, but instead the Dolphins grab an 8-point lead. Here's Shepard. The game is not over yet as he finds that seam pass near the 50-yard line. This game is not over yet. If the Cowboys can score and get the 2-point conversion, they'll be in business. That's a great screen pass. That's going to be a first down for Jackson, the Cowboys running back. And that is a big first down for the Dallas Cowboys. They're already at the 28-yard line. Second down and inches. Brent Shepard hits the check down. First down, and now they're inside the red zone here. What an opportunity for the Dallas Cowboys. Shepard to the 1-yard line, and he's going to be stopped just short. Timeout. The Cowboys just need to get in the end zone. Here's a first down and goal for Shepard. He's going to take off right, rolling, and he'll fire just out of bounds. Second down and goal at Dallas, 1 yard away. Will they give it to their running back? They'll toss up a prayer to the end zone. That's going to be batted away. Third down and goal. The Cowboys still not running the ball despite having 2 timeouts. Here is Brent Shepard. He takes a snap, rolls right, and he'll throw it. It's picked off again. It's picked off again. And the Dolphins are finally going to do it. It looks like it. Champlin in the end zone. He gets around his blocker, and he's got the first down. And the Miami Dolphins have finally done it. We have been waiting for this for so long, but Theo Irwin has done it. The legendary quarterback who has been years of disappointment with this Dolphins team. He spent years with this franchise trying to win a Super Bowl, lost multiple heartbreakers. This moment is for him. Theo Irwin has had an unbelievable career thus far, and the only thing that was missing to cement his legacy as one of the greatest QBs of all time was that elusive Super Bowl ring. He may never get to Pat Mahomes' level, but the 5-time MVP has now won a Super Bowl with this Dolphins team. And the story of Theo Irwin is remarkable. He was a second-round draft pick who spent his whole career with these Dolphins, and they have been contenders his whole career, and he finally gets a Super Bowl with his team. And the key for him today was not turning the ball over, something that's plagued him in his previous 2 Super Bowl losses to the Commanders and the Vikings. And Emmanuel Chamberlain was solid. He made some big plays at the end. Unfortunately for Dallas, they were missing their superstar X-Factor receiver Taj Lane, but at the end of the day, they were so close to winning their second Super Bowl of the sim, and they could not get it done. There you have it. The Dolphins are Super Bowl champions for the first time in this sim, and they give their legendary quarterback Theo Irwin a ring. What a moment for him. He was looking like he was going to follow that Dan Marino arc and never win a bowl, but he gets it done. And now we're in the 2045 offseason, and we got a couple big names here. The number 1 free safety, Jaden Cook, heads to the Texans, and the number 1 linebacker, Taylor Brown, to the Bengals. Another good tight end, there's a lot of good ones in this league. Caleb Black heads to the Falcons. Couple other decent players as well, but those are the main names of this class. Not much to talk about other than them. And now we're at the draft, and it was a pretty middling draft class. The best player was Darren Leonard, this running back to the Vikings. But other than that, there's not a whole lot to discuss from this draft class. A couple other decent players here and there, but overall, not the greatest offseason, not the greatest draft class. So here we are in the 2045 playoffs, and the Miami Dolphins are looking to win back-to-back Super Bowls as they're the number 1 seed in the AFC Conference. And out in the NFC, the Atlanta Falcons are there as the 1 seed in Austin Henley and them boys. The Cowboys are still in the playoffs, and the Vikings not going away just yet. MVP of the league is a new one. It is Dave Blanton, a name that we have not discussed. He's the New York Jets' new quarterback. Obviously, they had Arch Manning for a very long time, but Dave Blanton is their guy now, and he is the MVP. John Sullivan, Offensive Player of the Year, Mitch Wimbley, Defensive Player of the Year, and then Ben Skillen, the quarterback for the Bears, winning Offensive Player of the Year, and Kurt Carson for the Falcons, Defensive Player of the Year. And now we are at the Super Bowl, and it is a battle of the 1 seeds. The Dolphins are back in the Super Bowl, and they're facing the Atlanta Falcons. Here we go. The Falcons are on first down and goal, just a couple yards away from taking the lead. Here's the toss to Metcalf. Abdul Metcalf taken down for a big loss. And now it's a second down and goal. They'll give it back to Metcalf up the middle. He'll be taken down in the hole. And now they are 3 yards away from a potential Super Bowl title. Here's the handoff to Metcalf up the middle. He's taken down in the backfield. And now the Falcons are going to be forced to settle for 3, which they'll make the kick. And now it is all up to Theo Irwin, looking for his 2nd consecutive Super Bowl victory. And here we go. It's Theo Irwin dropping back to pass. He spins left, and he's sacked, and he's down, and now he's injured. Irwin's grabbing his knee. Irwin is out of the game. And now the Dolphins only have 1 timeout. They need to get into field goal range. And the backup quarterback, Rushing, is in the game to try to lead the comeback. Rushing throws a bomb to Barrow, and that's incomplete. 4th down and inches. They'll go to Chamberlain with the game on the line. He picks up the first down, but now the Dolphins have to hurry up. They got 34 seconds. Here's Rushing, dropping back to throw. He finds Chamberlain. That's a first down at midfield. They need to get into field goal range here in the next few seconds. They have 1 timeout to work with. The backup QB Rushing, looking to become a legend. He finds Chamberlain again. He nearly picks up the first down, but the Dolphins will call their final timeout. 11 seconds left. Rushing throws the check down over the middle. They're in field goal range, but will they be able to get the snap off? And they will not, and that is the game. The Dolphins lose another Super Bowl. They played in 4 Super Bowls in the recent years of this sim, and they've lost 3 of them. And the Falcons, meanwhile, winning their 2nd Super Bowl of this simulation. They won one back in the Bijan Robinson, Desmond Ridder days, and now they've won one with MVP Austin, the former MVP Austin Henley, who officially becomes an Atlanta legend. So there you have it. The Falcons take down the Dolphins in another nail-biting Super Bowl. What a big moment for Henley, who has guided this team to new heights. You know, they didn't have the best of seasons after Bijan Robinson left and Desmond Ridder retired, but this team is now back on top of the world. And it's unfortunate that we didn't get to see Theo Irwin try to lead his team. He got injured immediately. But once again, for Theo Irwin, it was another turnover-plagued Super Bowl. He threw 3 interceptions in this Super Bowl, and that is why they ended up losing this game. Abdul Metcalf with a hat trick of touchdowns, and Angelo Molds tried his best to carry this Dolphins team. But unfortunately for Miami, they were missing their star quarterback when they needed him most, and they ended up taking the L. John Nava wins Super Bowl MVP for getting multiple big interceptions, including a clutch one in Dolphins territory, and allowing Atlanta to set up the game-winning field goal. So that is it for the 2045 season, as Austin Henley leads the Falcons to a chip. So here we are in the 2046 free agency class, and we got some stars in this class, like the #1 running back in the league, Emmanuel Chamberlain, moving to Detroit. Another superstar X Factor in Otis Harrison heading to the Jets. Plus some other superstars like Hugh Hamilton, quarterback, heading to the Cowboys. Ben Walker moving on. Some superstar offensive tackles. This is probably one of the best free agency classes we have had in recent years. Unfortunately, it was paired with one of the worst draft classes we've had in years. Just check this out. The three highest overall players were in the second round, and if you look at the top 3 here in just a moment, it was bad. You know, as we see, the top 3, the top 5 really was just really bad. Nobody above a 75. Horrible, horrible, horrible draft class. Now we're in the 2046 playoffs, and here we are. Once again, the Kansas City Chiefs are the 1 seed. We haven't talked about the Chiefs in quite some time, but here they are. And out in the NFC, another team we haven't talked about in a while is the Detroit Lions. So I guess the addition of Emmanuel Chamberlain has really helped that franchise turn itself around. They have not really been relevant since Quinn Ewers led them to a Super Bowl. Austin Henley wins his second MVP of the sim for the Atlanta Falcons, and he's been a really good quarterback in this sim. Charleston Humphrey wins Offensive Player of the Year, Bigsby Defensive Player of the Year, no surprise. And then star running back Evan Stringer winning Offensive Player of the Year, and Adonis Lindsay wins Defensive Player of the Year. We're going to sim to the Super Bowl, and the 2046 Super Bowl is going to be the Washington Commanders versus the Kansas City Chiefs, 2 teams who have won multiple Super Bowls throughout this sim. We'll see which team can get that extra title. The Commanders are in the lead right now, and it looks like they're going to come out of this game with a win, and they are. What a defensive battle this Super Bowl was, but the Commanders win this game, and they are Super Bowl champions. So the Commanders winning their 3rd Super Bowl of the sim. The Chiefs were going for number 4 of the sim, but they are not able to get it. So there you have it. The Commanders winning their 3rd Super Bowl of the sim. They won a couple back with Dante Moore, and now they have one in the 2040s decade. So shout out to the Commanders, man. They've actually been a really underrated but good team in this sim. They've had some really solid runs to the Super Bowl, and they are able to capitalize once again, winning the Super Bowl as Sterling Whitman, their new quarterback, able to do enough. No touchdowns, no picks, just a very solid game. But remember, they had the Offensive Player of the Year, star running back Evan Stringer, although it was like he didn't do anything. He might have not played in this game. Nowbone tried to do his best for the Chiefs, but this is a very defensive game, and Washington's cornerback Justin Morton was able to come up with the big turnover, and that is why he is Super Bowl MVP. To cap off the 2046 season, the Commanders are your champions for the 3rd time in the sim. Now we head to the 2047 offseason, and the #1 player in this class is Lamar Moulton, the best safety in the league. X Factor, absolute beast, one of the best in all of football. And he's pretty much the only big name in this class. Pretty middling free agency class. But this draft class was absolutely insane. 380 plus overalls. The #1 safety in the class, Dalton Hewitt, is already a star. 82 overall out of the draft with 93 speed. He looks like an absolute beast. But the best player in this class is the quarterback selected by the... Just a second here, we'll check it out. By the Las Vegas Raiders. Doug Beckett is a demon. 96 throw power and 93 speed. This guy is insane. Huge arm with the ability to run and scramble like a Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields. Remarkable quarterback. This draft class is good. I mean, if you're the Colts, you got to be kicking yourself for taking Andrew Smith over Doug Beckett. 7 overall less. Andrew Smith is not looking great, man. Doug Beckett, though, that guy's a beast. There's also another really good running back, John Swift for the Bengals, who's really good. And now we're in the 2047 playoffs, and look at the Raiders making the playoffs with Doug Beckett. And the Dolphins are back as the #1 seed. The Dolphins have just dominated in the 2040s in the AFC Conference. They made the Super Bowl a bunch. Haven't won it a lot. But the main reason why they've been so good is because of Theo Irwin, who wins his 6th MVP of the sim. Theo Irwin has put up the best stats by a quarterback in this sim, no doubt. Taylor Brown getting Defensive Player of the Year. I think the Raiders, Philip Terry, him and Doug Beckett with a connection. Chris McGee, Offensive Player of the Year, and Kirk Carson, Defensive Player of the Year. But yeah, man, Theo Irwin has easily been the best quarterback in this sim in terms of stats. Unfortunately, he only has 1 Super Bowl to show for it. And now it's a rematch of the Super Bowl 78 game, a classic double overtime between both these teams. The Vikings came out on top. And in this one, the Vikings are also going to get the best of Theo Irwin and the Dolphins as they blow them out by 21. So the Vikings, I believe this is their 5th Super Bowl of this sim. The Vikings have been far and away the best team in this simulation to 2050. We're nearing the end of this sim, only a few years left, and the Vikings have won 5 Super Bowls. 3 of those Super Bowls belonging to Shane Carden as the quarterback of this team. And the Dolphins have got to be the biggest what-if of this sim, as they've made the Super Bowl 4 of the last 5 seasons, and they've only managed to come away with 1 Super Bowl title, despite having Theo Irwin and Emmanuel Chamberlain for most of those years. But unfortunately, the Dolphins are falling short once again. Shane Carden put up a perfect performance, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Irwin managed to throw a pick, but it was pretty clear that the Vikings offense was on another level this game. I mean, great game from Darren Leonard, the former first-round pick, who had a great game. And Paul Samuel tried his best, but Emmanuel Chamberlain is the best running back in the league, hard to replace. But it was this defense for the Vikings that came up big. Lots of sacks from the Vikings today, and they also managed to get an interception. So there you have it. That is how the 2047 season ends. The Vikings win their 5th Super Bowl of this sim. They've been kind of the dynasty of the sim. They've won so many Super Bowls. Shane Carden is officially in the history books as one of the greatest postseason quarterbacks of all time, winning 3 Super Bowls with this Vikings team. And for the Miami Dolphins, another season that they came so close, but they fell short at the end. So here we are in the 2048 offseason, and this is the free agency class we got. A couple good players, good offensive linemen in this class. Justin Morton, the former Super Bowl MVP, being a free agent here. Travis Stewart, who's been good. Eddie Sims, free safety, heading to the Cowboys. And a big name in this franchise, Brent Shepard, the former Dallas Cowboy quarterback, heading to Las Vegas. And this draft class is one of the greatest draft classes of all time, as it has not one, but 2 generational talents. The first is quarterback Reggie Seawright with 99 throw power, the biggest possible arm. This guy has an absolute cannon for an arm. One of the greatest quarterbacks to enter this league in a long time. And the other one is one of the greatest wide receiver prospects of all time. Probably the greatest. Julius Douglas, 6'6", 98 speed, 99 excel, 99 jumping, 92 release, great catch in traffic, great spec catch. Out of UT, one of the greatest wide receiver prospects to ever enter the league. Randy Moss, Calvin Johnson type build there. And this is easily one of the best draft classes that we've ever seen. It is incredible. Lots of great talent. Those top 2 are beasts. We're into the 2048 playoffs now, and check it out. The Miami Dolphins are the number 1 seed in the AFC. They're looking for their 2nd Super Bowl title. We'll see if they'll be able to get it. Out in the NFC, it's the Giants, who are the number 1 seed. And John Sullivan picks up his 2nd MVP award of the simulation here. He's been great, and he wins another MVP. And he's helped out by his Offensive Player of the Year star, Cedric Cherry. Alex Conley winning Defensive Player of the Year for the Bengals. In the NFC, Will Ball, the league's leading receiver this season, Offensive Player of the Year, and Kirk Carson winning Defensive Player of the Year. And neither of our generationals were able to get Offensive Rookie of the Year. It went to Roman Venables. Surprise, as the Panthers were terrible. And now we're in the Super Bowl, and we got a very surprising Super Bowl. It is the Atlanta Falcons with 35-year-old Austin Henley at quarterback versus the Las Vegas Raiders with one of the league's best young quarterbacks in Doug Beckett. And the Falcons are able to come out on top for their 3rd Super Bowl of the sim. The Falcons have sneakily been one of the best teams in this simulation. They've won 3 Super Bowls. They won one back in the Bijan Robinson era. Then they won one a few years ago with Austin Henley. And now they've won another Super Bowl. Towards the end of Henley's career, this Falcons team is back. They are Super Bowl champions. And look at the Atlanta Falcons, man. They've done a great job rebuilding that core. They went from Bijan and Desmond to Henley and Abdul Metcalf. That's the duo out in Atlanta. And they've won their 3rd Super Bowl of the simulation. So the Falcons have been one of the better teams, and they cap off the 28-48 season with a Super Bowl championship. They took down Doug Beckett, who had a 4-touchdown performance in the Super Bowl, one of the league's best young QBs out of Marshall. 4 touchdowns to 1 interception. Henley threw a couple picks. Abdul Metcalf was shut down on the ground this game. But it was a great game from Deontay Little. And even though Philip Thierry tried his best, the Raiders could not get the W as Myles Guyton dominated for the Falcons in the Super Bowl with a historic 3-sack performance that does end up winning him Super Bowl MVP. So for the 3rd time in the simulation, the Atlanta Falcons are your champions. Myles Guyton gets MVP of the Super Bowl, and the Raiders fall in the bowl. So we're about to head to the 2049 season, but before we do that, we have to get through the offseason. And this free agency class has a couple good players. Raheem Trent, one of the top corners, getting signed. John Wilson to the Vikings is a big signing as well. Chris Benson, really solid corner, heading to Green Bay. A couple other decent players here and there, but overall, not the best free agency class. Brian Thompson, they're a solid tight end. A lot of good tight ends in this league, but pretty mid free agency class. Not really a lot of great players in this class. And yeah, it's pretty, as we get deeper into the sim, there's not, the number of great players are not great, and a lot of guys leaving teams, like quarterbacks, they don't enter the market too often. But for the second year in a row, Brent Shepard leaves. He'll head to Chicago for what could be his final season. This draft class is not amazing. It's pretty hard to top that previous draft class, which was historic. Best player in the class is Esquivel, one of the better defensive tackle prospects we've seen in a while. Quincy Wilson, also a pretty solid defensive tackle. Not really a lot of good QBs in this class. And now we're in the 2049 playoffs, and the Miami Dolphins are once again the top seed out in the AFC. Can Theo Irwin get that second Super Bowl ring? He's, I think, 35 years old at this point in his career. So we'll see if Theo Irwin can get the job done and win the Super Bowl for the second time. But one thing that he does win is his MVP record. I think that's record-breaking 7th MVP award, man. Theo Irwin is down to a 94 overall, but he is still killing the game. 7 MVP awards is unbelievable. And you just got to give the man his props. He's been unstoppable. Kirk Carson getting another Defensive Player of the Year, and Darren Leonard, the Vikings star running back, getting Offensive Player of the Year. But Theo Irwin is the story, man. He's 35 years old, still killing the league, and he's back in the Super Bowl once again. The Dolphins have made the Super Bowl so many times. They've only managed to win one Super Bowl. And can Theo Irwin, at age 35, lead the Dolphins to another Super Bowl title? They've been the best team in the 2040s. Unfortunately, they only have one ring to show for it. And here we are in the Super Bowl, and it looks like the Dolphins are going to do it again. For the second time in the Theo Irwin era, the Dolphins are on top of the NFL world. They've had years and years of heartbreak where they've lost so many Super Bowls. But as we're getting closer and closer to finishing out this simulation, Theo Irwin gets his final Super Bowl of the sim. I mean, Theo Irwin, man, it's been a tough career for him. He's had a lot of playoff heartbreak. He's won 7 MVPs. He's officially one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, up there in that top echelon with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. Not having quite the same amount of Super Bowl success, but 7 MVPs and multiple rings is an undeniable resume. It puts you on the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, no doubt. So shout out to Theo Irwin, man. What a Super Bowl performance he had today against Glenn Bonner. And Irwin threw 3 touchdowns and no picks, which is the key. No turnovers in this game. Offense was great. Paul Samuel was not the best, but he was solid. Will Ball was good, but the Cardinals just couldn't keep up with Theo Irwin, who was on a mission to win his second Super Bowl ring. So there you have it. Theo Irwin gets the Super Bowl, and he gets the Super Bowl MVP as the Dolphins win their second Super Bowl of the simulation. And now we will head to the final season of this simulation, the 2050 season. What a long journey it's been simulating, and all these seasons we've seen so many crazy stories, so many crazy Super Bowls, and we're almost finished. One more year to go, and we'll start off with the 2050 free agency, where Stanley Cleary, the top tight end in the NFL, heads to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So yeah, this will be the final season of the sim, and then the next video that I post will be the recap video with all the stats, MVPs, Super Bowls, all the numbers of this video. We'll go in depth into that. But first, we got to finish up this final season and this final simulation video. So here we go. Decent free agency class, couple good players, but nothing crazy other than the Cleary guy. And the draft class is probably one of the worst draft classes we've had. The best player is a third-round running back named Kevin Towns out of A&M, who's just not even that good. This is a pretty mid-draft class, in my opinion. One of the worst ones we've seen to end off the video. But we've had a couple really good ones. Had like 4 generationals in this video. But yeah, I mean, this draft class was not it, man. I mean, you look at it. I mean, the first 75 overall player was at pick 8. It took 8 picks to get there. Final playoffs of this video and of this simulation, the final sim season we have. And the Raiders are the 1 seed out in the AFC. And the Vikings are 1 seed out in the NFC. The The Vikings have been the best team in this simulation. They've won 5 Super Bowls in this sim, which is crazy. And the Dolphins are back in the playoffs. We'll see if Theo Irwin can do it again. Pretty shocking MVP for the final season, Eddie Gilmore, who was a journeyman with the New Orleans Saints for a while. I mean, actually, he was pretty decent for the Saints, but, you know, he's kind of been a journeyman here towards the end of his career. Defensive Player of the Year goes to Monty Green, Jamal Howard helping the Raiders get that 1 seed, and then Steve Brown getting Defensive Player of the Year. And the final Super Bowl of this video will be the Minnesota Vikings versus the Cleveland Browns, 2 teams who have had the complete opposite trajectories in the sim. The Browns have not made a Super Bowl this entire simulation, and the Vikings have managed to win 5 Super Bowls. We'll see who gets the final W, and it's going to be the Cleveland Browns who do it. So that is how the 2050 simulation is going to end. 5 videos of simming, and the Browns are the ones who get the final Super Bowl. After not making it and not doing anything the entire simulation, John McClain and this Browns team are finally able to hoist the Lombardi. And the Vikings had a chance to win their 6th Super Bowl of the simulation, but they were not able to finish it off. So that's how it's going to end, man. The Cleveland Browns, one of the only, I think half of the league managed to win a Super Bowl in this simulation, and the Browns are one of those teams who were able to win that Super Bowl. They get their only ring in franchise history in the year 2050. We'll check out the stats here, and then we'll just wrap up this video. 7 seasons packed into this video. A really long video. Lots to go over. As you see, John McClain was clutch. Both teams, I think, were missing their starting running back in this video. Tyler Brown was out for Cleveland, and Darren Leonard was out for Minnesota. So pretty big losses for both sides. But yeah, man, that is how this video is going to end. John McClain gives the Browns their first Super Bowl trophy in franchise history. And after simming almost 30 seasons in this franchise, we are now done simulating. The next video will be the stats video and the everything else, the recap of everything that went down in this franchise. Thank you guys for watching this series. It's been a long journey, but we have finally made it to the year 2050. And the next time I see you guys, we'll be going over everything that happened in the last, I believe, 27 seasons. But yeah, thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, man.